Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Saturday edition of Let's Talk with me, Julie Alli. Now, oftentimes on this show, we come across amazing people, amazing guests, people who have got so much of insight and so much of value to share with our esteemed viewers that we invite them back immediately in the same week to come and share their wisdom with us. And we've done that once again with our lovely guest, Imran Banubai. He was on the show on Wednesday and is back in studio today to share some more of his insights with us on the show. So do hope you're going to enjoy the interview. Let's get right to the heart of the matter with Imran Banubai. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum assalam, thanks for having me back.
My pleasure entirely. Thank you for your generosity in being back again and to share your knowledge, your insights and your expertise with our viewers right here on ITV Networks.
Thank you.
Now, we spoke about a whole host of things on Wednesday. We touched very, we went into, in depth a bit into spirituality, alhamdulillah. I think it gave us insights into the self, the nafs, our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That being said, I think as you and I sit and speak here this morning, the majority of the major countries in the world are on lockdown.
Right.
South Africa is not far from there. We've had lots of incidences playing out since President Ramaphosa gave his State of the Nation speech the other day about the situation as far as COVID-19 is concerned. And there are opposing views as far as masajids, closure of masajids is concerned, closure of madaris, closure of schools. Parents are wondering, what do we do with our children? How do we keep them occupied? Very especially if parents go outside of home to work. So there's lots of social, practical and financial implications involved here as well. How do we, as Muslims, make sense of what is going on around us, and how do we stop ourselves from going into panic mode and make a meaningful difference?
Well, that's actually a very interesting question, because it's something, obviously, I think each of us have been asking ourselves this question. And it's simply human. I mean, first, we are human. So this is something that's quite remarkable, right? I mean, the scale of which is unprecedented, right? I mean, I don't remember in my 53 years of living where, I mean, literally countries have shut down. We're not talking of schools here. We're talking of countries that have just closed their borders. So I like to look at it, and you're right, they're definitely opposing views, right? But in some of my learnings, I came across this theory called disjointed learning. Now, disjointed learning is when you learn from different people with opposing views. Right? So you will have one concept, some will be for it, some will be against it. It then forces you to actually carve your own path. It forces you to actually think about it and then to come up with your own opinion about it. And that's a good thing, because it then allows you to access your own intellect. Right? So this is my take on it. Right? So I mean, we're not used to the idea. I mean, there's almost like a conflict, right? Why would you close a masjid? Right? Because I mean, in essence, you need to turn to Allah more.
Absolutely, and it's a place of communal meeting. It's
meeting,
where you get together and you discuss these issues, obviously.
Right. So I through my own learnings over the years, have got a very sort of a clear grasp on this particular kind of thinking, right? So I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, fine, okay, this is completely new, right? And we have to be prepared for, like we said in our previous conversation, lots of new things are going to happen which we'll be completely out of our comfort zones.
And
so,
out of our control, perhaps.
Out of control. And so now, this is my take on it, right? So if you could look at it both ways, right? For example, I mean, we should be turning more to Allah. Why are we closing the mosques? But and rightfully said, I heard a talk by the Imam of Gageville Masjid, and he put it beautifully. He said, listen, at the end of the day, preservation of life comes first. Number one, preservation of life supersedes, and we know that there are incidents in our past history, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, where certain kind of rulings were given. Now, the whole idea of having ulama and having muftis is to actually deal these disputes, because not everything was prevalent at that particular time, but the framework has been set. So we're being challenged. And so whilst we, on one hand, might feel that we are actually, in a sense, giving up on our right to the masjid, It's not necessarily the case. I'll tell you why. Because sometimes, I read a very, very beautiful thing once where Allah says, and this is very deep, and I hope people understand this and it mustn't be misconstrued. So what happens is, when Allah says, if you worship me without knowledge of me, I don't consider it worship, right? So like now, this is a very interesting dynamic. So our prayers have also become habitual. Going to the mosque has become a routine, right? So in a sense, when you are deprived of something, its value increases. Can you see that? I mean, for example, if you were not going to mosque, right, for example, you would now almost feel guilty that, listen, I'm faced with such a major crisis, I need to turn to Allah, right? But now even when you decide to turn, He shut the door on you. Right? So it almost makes you realize that they've said a time will come when the words will be lifted off the Quran, right? So these are times of reflection. So even if you were very particular about going, the loss of the access of that masjid becomes very pronounced now. So its value increases tremendously.
Absolutely.
So there's a value in that now. That deprivation, you understand, leads to an increase in value.
That inshallah, when the time comes, and we hope sometime soon,
Inshallah,
that we'll have more and more congregants,
Absolutely,
more people valuing this institution, bringing communities together and being a place of community meetings.
Definitely. And I look at the value of staying at home. Right? For example, I mean, without trying to be too judgmental, and I'm actually not a judgmental person, I've actually learned to kill that. But it's not about judgment, it's about reality, right? So when men are going to stay at home now to perform salah, what a brilliant opportunity to actually draw your family into that. So the man leads the prayer, his wife, his kids are behind him. So what is it? It's almost as if Allah is like creating a reframe. There's like we're plugging into something at home, right? And then when we finally all sort of conscientized, we can then go back into the mainstream, and then, so what are we doing? We are being isolated, but in essence we are being insulated.
Absolutely.
If you take a wire, a cable, I mean, if it were left open, I mean, you can kill somebody with the power. So Allah is isolating us to re-insulate us. That's my take on it. So I think the pain of not having that masjid, it's a very, very, very real pain for those to whom it means absolutely everything. I mean,
it's not only the masajid, it's also issues around Umrah,
Hajj,
tours has been cancelled. There's a possibility, we hope and pray, inshallah, when the time comes, maybe the Hajj will be reopened.
Right.
So there's that issue as well. Right. And all issues around socialization, mass socializing, possibly weddings and mass meetings have been contained or been done away with altogether. For now, we shouldn't be congregating in numbers of more than 100. But even that is a risk,
Still
is
a
it
risk.
not?
I mean, even if it's
so
fine,
let's break that down and see the beauty, the merit, in those type of situations. And on the other hand, what is this disaster, this threat of this illness, COVID-19, how is it impacting on our mental state of health? And knowing that it's happening all around the world. In the past, when we had tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanoes, fires, all of that didn't touch us directly here in South Africa. From a distance, we did our bit by contributing whatever we had to do. But now this is hitting us on a global scale, unprecedented, unheard of. Where do we go from here? So let's look at all of those dynamics.
Those are actually amazing dynamics. If you roll them out one by one, I think you'd probably be here for a week, right? But the thing is, what I like about this, and when I say like about it, I mean, I'm always, my mindset.
It's forcing us to rethink the status quo.
It's to reframe. So what is this? What is this? This is a reframe, right? So what has actually happened here? This is a common thread of a test that's hitting everyone all at once. So it's an opportunity, if you wish, for us all to press the reset button in our thinking, in our understanding of life. Say, for example, let's take weddings, for example, right? So we have exorbitant weddings. I mean, we spend millions on these weddings, which largely, if you look at it, there's huge wastage attached to it, right?
Absolutely.
So now
and wastage is haram.
It's haram, right? I mean, for example, they said that the nikah with the least expense has the most barakah. And then we don't do that. We do the flip of it, and then we want to know why the divorce rate's so high, right? So again, there's a whole imbalance. Like I said, so I think this is an equalizer. This COVID disease, and it is an equalizer where all of humanity, all at once, are being served with a meal which it demands us all to reflect on where we are heading. Because for most of us, I mean, we're literally going nowhere very fast. So we caught up in this thing. Now imagine now, for example, it'll be quite an interesting dynamic to see how people start coping with their own families, because what has technology done to us? It's literally, I mean, everybody's in their own rooms, on their own phones.
It's distanced us socially.
Right? So like now we go back to what I would like to term the old days, right? So we now start recognizing people for who they are. And we start becoming, so apart from praying together, eating together, spending time together, so what it's done, it's actually sort of reseeding. We're planting seeds of love again, the opportunity to actually till the soil. You know what I mean? To till the soil of our family relationships, or even, so for me, I'm looking at it as, what benefits are there? There must be. See, Allah says every difficulty is a carpet of gifts. So when He makes that statement, I'm always inclined to want to understand what is the benefit now. So there are benefits. The benefit is you're going to spend less money. Imagine there are millionaires out there who have their own private jets, for example, that can't move, right? So I mean, there's some wisdom in that, right? So it's equalizing society. It's bringing people back to a natural state, and to the state of fitra, to a natural state of understanding. Listen, you know what I mean? I'm my brother's keeper. You know what I mean? Can I look at my neighbor? Let me see
brings out the humanity in you.
It brings the humanity out, and that is awesome. I mean, it's a brilliant opportunity to just revive that aspect of life.
Let's go for our first ad break. Imran Banubai is here in studio talking to me. We started out talking COVID-19, but we'll also touch a little bit on a transformational teaching or practicing. It is what he does, but all of that right after the ad break. The Saturday morning Let's Talk with me, Julie Alli, right here on ITV Networks. We have a repeat guest in studio, and such a pleasure to have him here. He has a beautiful mind, and I love talking to people with beautiful minds. He is Imran Banubai, and we are talking COVID-19, the social, psychological, financial, and all other impacts on our lives. So it's frightening, isn't it? It's overwhelming.
It's completely overwhelming.
And even as Muslims, we keep saying there's a reason. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His wisdom is testing us. It's a challenge. We need to rise up to the challenge. But psychologically, it's going to have an impact on us.
Absolutely. I mean, for example, this is the quarantine, right? So if, for want of a better term, I really thought this out. I've been reflecting on this for the last few days. I've been reading practically every article on Facebook on this particular incident, and it just comes back to me for me as personally. I'm looking at it from a completely different perspective. So I mean, people are getting quarantined for 14 days now. I mean, you being on your own for that. I mean, we can barely just live with ourselves in terms of actually deal our own realities. We always looking to escape ourselves, if you wish, you know, by virtue of entertainment, by constantly looking for other things to do so that we don't have to deal with ourselves. So now we are left to deal with ourselves. So for me, this is a tremendous thing. The first analogy, I actually rephrased it, and I'm actually calling it a spiritual quarantine. And when I use the word spiritual, I never even put these two words together. It immediately took me to the concept of itikaf. Now, for example, I've been blessed by the grace of a wonderful friend who's been taking me. But for example, you go to itikaf in Medina, right? Or to any masjid in anywhere in the world. What is an itikaf? It is exactly that. It's a quarantine. It's a quarantine that allows you to dislodge yourself.
A social quarantine.
A social quarantine, right? So you dislodge, you disconnect. You are then have to deal with yourself and your creator. So again, what is this going to do, right? So it's going to give people an opportunity to start reflecting on their lives, right? I mean, now it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing because there's the psychological impact and the emotional impact on this can be overwhelming. So again, this is where the need comes in to actually understand what emotions are. So again, what are we going to attach? This is a test. If we're going to attach negative emotions and hold it onto this test, it's going to be debilitating. It's going to be completely debilitating. What we need to do is to create a distance between the actual test and the emotion. So we need to sort of create a veil, if you wish. And how do we do that? Is by reflecting. You see, we need to go into a state of silence. Now look at this. What does silence do? When you go silent, now you're left on your own. It's like a person who's in solitary confinement. Imagine you just left with your mind. That's it. You are walled in, right? So the mind, like you said, is a beautiful thing, right? So now if you start doing this, when we go silent, what happens? Magic happens. Because when you go silent, your innate intelligence comes to the fore.
But also, it depends the movies you allow your mind
To play.
to play. Obviously, it could be very negative.
Could be.
It depends on your mental state of mind, your frame.
Right.
If you are a naturally positive person, if you are a naturally spiritual person,
Right.
if you are a victim, a person stuck forever
Right.
in victim mode,
This is not going to help you.
what's it going to do to all
Okay.
these different personality types?
It's going to challenge everybody. So the thing is, it's going to challenge. So the way to actually deal this, I would think, is to ask, what does this mean? You see, when any challenge you're facing, anyone, but this one in particular, what does this actually mean? Why has life come to a standstill? So it's a reflection of a day to come when it's going to be exactly this.
Ooh.
It's going to be that. So there is going to be a day when the world literally comes to a standstill. How prepared am I for that reality? So this is a stage show, if you wish. This is
A rehearsal.
A rehearsal. This is purely a rehearsal. So that rehearsal demands a reflection. So now again, if you ask yourself, okay, what does this mean, right? Again, you're going to revisit. So you're going to have to reimagine what your life's going to look like after this. So like when I went to my bypass, I pleaded to Allah, and I literally, it was like a plea bargain. I was 49, and I said, listen, I've squandered my lives. I'm in debt. I leave my family with no wealth. It's just complete disarray. So you go into a state of plea bargaining. You plea bargain with Allah. Listen, give me a second chance. Let me right the wrongs. So here's a chance. So even if you want to right the wrongs, well, look at Allah's wisdom. He shut the door on the conventional way now. He shut the masjid. So he says, bring that deen back into your home first. Bring that faith, the spirit back into your home, because it's not in your home. It's devoid. You see, the kind of spirituality we experience is very habitual. It's ritual. So when you go back into your home, what are you going to do? You're going to bring that, you're going to replant that seed back where it matters. I mean, a home is a place of nurture. Right? A woman's role is ultimate.
It's your haven.
It's your haven,
home
right?
is your haven.
So can you imagine Allah's wisdom? He's taking you back to your roots. It's like He's taking you back. When somebody asked me once, what is etikaf, for example, I said it's like the equivalent of being in the womb of your mother. Think about it. You are in a place of, you're in the palms of Allah. Right? So now when He takes you back into your home, everybody's home is their haven, generally, right? Hopefully.
Yeah.
So if it is that, it gives us the chance to actually think about the day. When we don't have to wait for the day of the final day of judgment. Your life, when it ends, is your judgment. So your life has come to an end. So go back, reassess, and then, you know what I mean? And so
stick with it, whatever it is, whatever plea bargains that you've made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and whatever you have, resolved to change, then stick with it, because life would be beautiful thereafter. But that being said, Imran, what's also happening currently in South Africa, I haven't seen it playing out in other parts of the world, maybe in the UK, but there's this panic buying that is happening, and you know how that can start a horrible chain reaction.
Absolutely.
The thing that comes to mind is those of us that have the means to go out and buy out an entire store, clear out the shelves, will be living comfortably for however long COVID's going to be living with us.
Absolutely.
What about the ordinary working class guy or the ordinary man in the street? What messages are we giving to him, and how do we move away from this panic psychology?
Yeah, it's frightening. I mean, I was watching a video, for example, at Macro yesterday. It was insane, right? Like the world came to an end. Now, this is an Islamic channel, and I'm going to speak to you from an Islamic perspective as well, right? The very thing that is being challenged is being ignored, right? And what is that?
Our greed.
No, our faith. Because check, your risk is guaranteed.
Yes, absolutely.
This, right? Your risk is guaranteed. So what are you saying? Okay, tell me. So even if you have all the means.
But tied in with all of that is our greed,
Absolutely.
our nafs, our
so
wants, and not our needs.
Okay, so imagine if we don't get the real message. The real message is, listen, where are you going to place your trust? In your wealth? Because if you have the means, you're placing your trust in your means. What about the guy who doesn't have the means? Right? What's he placing his trust in? I can almost guarantee he's placing his faith.
Absolutely.
And I'm one of those people. I'm telling you that straight. I mean, I'm very candid about that. But the point is this, right? Let's assume that we don't get the lesson. And what if this goes on for 3 years, for argument's sake, and you've got all the wealth on earth, and now there's no food? So you still face with the challenge. So what I'm saying is, let's be practical, pragmatic, right? Let's be realistic and say, okay, listen, this is a challenge. So we go into, when we turn to Allah, essentially, we ask Him to protect us, right? And He loves us, right? So He's placed the test upon us, but He says it'll not be more than you can There'll not be a greater burden. So if you place your trust in that kind of thinking, what happens? You become calm. I mean, how much do we need to? I can guarantee you, literally, if we buy nothing for the next 2 weeks, we'll literally have enough already in our homes. I promise you, go into your freezers and to your groceries, even if you come down to the bare bones, you probably still will survive without buying anything. Because that's how we live. We live months in advance. So we'll eat less. So we'll learn to be more grateful. So then we'll think about our neighbor. So then we'll think about our children. So all of these dynamics, for me, it's almost as if we've been, there's a beautiful dua. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min ad-diki dunya wa diki yawm al-qiyamah. Oh Allah, save me from the constrictedness of this world and save me from the constrictedness on the day of Qiyamah. So this is the play. This is the reflection. So what is this? What is Allah doing? He's squeezing us. He's squeezing us into a very limited space. This is the diki dunya we're talking about. So if we learn to understand that, listen, that our grave is going to be this, by the way. Right? This is going to be our grave. It's going to be a very constricted space.
Absolutely. So
there's so much of, and you don't have to be spiritual to understand this. Trust me. What you need to be is real. You need to understand that, listen, no matter who I am, Allah is taking the power away from your means and replacing that power into your faith. You're just doing a transfer. You're doing an EFT. From your bank account to your spiritual account, right? And to your wisdom and to your basic humanity, which we have literally forgotten. So this is it's literally changing the playing field. It's equalizing the playing field. Everybody, whoever you are, you could be the wealthiest person on God's green earth, right? Are going to have the similar experience as the guy who was and the guy who was suffering poverty. Trust me, he's ready for this because this is his life. Absolutely. This is his life anyway.
Mm-hmm. On Wednesday, we spoke about the changing world we're living in. The world of work's going to change. Right. I'm wondering if this is also not a dress rehearsal, because I'm talking about, and we've just with 3 minutes to wrap up, I'm talking about, I was telling my husband this morning, imagine someone who was meant to be going out for interviews, job interviews.
Right, exactly. You can't.
That is at a standstill. Right. Anything and everything is on hold, right now, and we're in limbo. Right. How do you respond to that?
So that's the beauty part of it, right? So this is again. So when you become silent, something really amazing happens. You become creative. You see, when you're under pressure, your productivity just dies. Now that everyone's going into a silent space, what will happen? They'll become more creative. You have to, because check, you have the instinct of survival is deep within each of us. You're going to think, how am I going to take care of my kids? So you're going to find creative ways. So for example, you might decide, I'm going to start a small little school for me and my neighbor's children, because what I think these kids going to do, right? I mean, so example, I'm a teacher. I can't go to school. Let me get the neighborhood's kids involved. So you understand, let me do some sports. So creativity will come to the fore. Then that will become a means of income. That will also give birth to greater ideas. So this opportunity, we shouldn't look at it as being hold down. We should look at it as a brainstorming opportunity. So, okay, listen, let me see how I can get my creative juices flowing. Now that interview can still take place over the phone. This is why we have technology. So everything leads to something else. Every door that closes is an opening for another door. So this is again an opportunity for us to relook at everything. And I'm actually I think let's get our curiosity juices flowing again. And trust me, we will find the answers to these challenges, and we will be better off for it. The life will be. I mean, even if nothing else comes from this, but we just become a little bit more compassionate. Right? A little bit more, it would have been a worthwhile challenge.
And I guess be a little more mindful of about our health, our life, our well-being. And if nothing else, let us just look at 2 words. They're both pretty powerful, and truly reflect on them. Wants and needs.
And needs. Can I put the third one in just to wrap that, to gift wrap it, right? Gratitude. This is going to teach us the true meaning of gratitude. When you stay at home and you look at your wife who slogs day and night and provides for your family, you will learn how to be appreciative of this woman. And when your children look at you, they will learn to be appreciative of you. And you will realize that you have been gifted the greatest gifts, which we are blinded to.
Absolutely.
So this Allah is going to bring it right up to our faces, and we're going to look at people that we love in a whole new way.
Absolutely.
So gratitude is the thing.
Alhamdulillah. Right. I'm glad we've had this discussion. Of course, we've got no real answers for anybody, but it brings us right back to spirituality, your deen and your iman. Alhamdulillah. And of course, introspection, self-reflection. And hopefully you'll be able to see beyond and past all of these difficulties.
I think it's a wonderful thing personally, and I think, trust me, the answers are all within us.
Alhamdulillah.
This opportunity is the opportunity for us to literally arrive at it, and we will, by Allah's grace. Inshallah, we will.
Thank
absolutely.
you indeed for your deep thoughts. It's
No
been
problem.
wonderful once again talking with
thank you
you.
very much.
Hope that we will meet up again,
We will.
inshallah.
Thank you very
with
much.
your
And
du'as.
salams to all the viewers. And just be strong, and keep the faith, inshallah.
Absolutely.
Right.
That was Imran Banubai sharing his views on COVID-19. And of course, the issue is around social distancing, which I think is going to impact on all of us, but giving us a very positive take on how we can utilize this time in a very, very purposeful way. So please start thinking about it deeply, do some introspection, and don't feel that life has come to a standstill. It's the start of huge opportunities in your own life, your relationships, and going forward in the community, inshallah. From COVID-19, we now move on to emotional intelligence, and our guest is a glowing Claudine Ndlovu to talk to us about motivational speaking and emotional intelligence and a whole host of other things as well. Morning, welcome to the program.
Good morning, thank you so much for having me.
Lovely to have you here, and you are glowing,
Oh,
absolutely. You're
Thank
living up
you.
to your namesake, obviously,
Thank
Claudine.
you. We try.
You're here to talk emotional intelligence, but you yourself own a business,
Yes.
a very successful one at that. Tell us a little bit about your business and how you believe that your emotional intelligence was directly responsible in getting you where you are today.
All right. First, let me start at the beginning of how I started my business. Because when I first started it, I was actually ill. I was hospitalized for 3 months. I had a condition called Bell's palsy, which
I've
is
heard of
paralysis
it.
of the face.
Right.
So I couldn't work at my previous job because of that.
Okay, so how old were you when this happened?
I was, I think, 23, 25, somewhere there, about.
It's really a coincidence that you talk about Bell's palsy because in my workplace, I'm talking about possibly 5 years ago, a colleague of mine also presented with it, and we were really worried about her condition. We thought she was never ever going to recover from it because it's almost like a stroke on your face, is it not?
Yeah, it is. It literally is. So with the job that I was doing at that time, the payroll system, unfortunately it's very quick with system updates. So if you miss 3 months, literally you have to go back and redo all the training and all of that. So I found myself unemployed and I had bills to pay.
Right.
I literally had 200 rands in my pocket. I went and I bought a nail kit and I taught myself how to do nails. And from that time, the business kind of started growing and revolutionizing to what it is right now. And I think the biggest part of me sustaining the business was the emotional part of things. You know, the emotional intelligence and just being able to interact with people. Because, I mean, in my business, I interact with different kinds of people. But if you don't have that balance within yourself, it becomes difficult to, one, understand the clients, and two, understand the needs of the clients. You can study and do marketing and PR all you like, but if in you don't have the ability to handle clients and customers and all the other things, like you mentioned the coronavirus previously, if you do not have that emotional intelligence and also the proper foundation in business, then unfortunately it would have crumbled. So in a nutshell, my business is actually a mobile nail bar as well as a spa. And the reason why I thought to actually introduce that into the market is because just like now with the virus, it's as if I was preempting it. But you know, people are lazy to go out and wait in queues. People are lazy to just stand at the salon waiting for their turn.
People are impatient.
They're really impatient, and it's actually time consuming and it's straining to actually do that. So what we do is then we bring all the beauty services, literally all of them, from styling, makeup, hair, training, nail training as well. We bring it in the comfort of your home or in your office.
So how big a staff complement do you have? Because I'm thinking of logistics, and I'm also thinking of how would you know that you are going to be, let's assume you're going to a shopping mall for the weekend to offer your services at a shopping mall, or does it not operate like that? Do you work on a party plan based system rather, or do you just randomly choose a site and go there and set up for the day?
Well, that's in the future plans. The pop-up stores, what you're referring to, is in the future plans. But currently, we're still just making sure that we build a strong foundation with what we have, which is the mobile side of the business. So what we primarily do is that we go to corporates. We go to companies and we offer the services. So maybe in one day we'll go to company A, the next day we're at company B, and then we'll obviously come back to A and B after 2 or 3 weeks should they need our services. And then we also work strictly by appointments with the individuals.
And I should imagine there's a lot of logistical planning that goes into something like that, because A, you've got to get permission. You can't just pitch up at a company.
Exactly.
So you need to be forming relationships with the company concerned. And here again, emotional intelligence comes in.
Correct.
So you're having to form contacts, network, relationships. Yeah. And then over and above all of that, when you go there, you've got to ensure that you give top class service.
Exactly.
Because if you don't, there's no going back.
Yeah, there's no referrals, there's no growing beyond that. Because here's the thing, with corporate, the impact of negative talk in corporate is bigger than individuals. Because with individuals, it can be just a preference thing. But if the whole company says, this company, we don't want to work with them, and they refer that negative, energy or communication to other companies, then unfortunately, that would be the death of the business.
You've seen a gap in the market, which is really very clever on your part.
Thank you.
You do know that in this day and age, with the employment as high as it is, I think almost 30%, we're sitting at 30%.
Yeah.
And undoubtedly, sadly, COVID-19 is going to take its toll as well.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning that your type of business, two things are going to happen. It's a luxury. You indulge yourself when you go for a beauty treatment or you have your nails done or a facial or whatever the case may be. So COVID's going to hit us as bad as we're going to have to rethink our priorities in life. So you're going to have a knock-on effect on that. And the second negative, perhaps positive, because competition is good.
Yeah.
Competition is healthy.
Yes.
People are going to copy your mobile structure, your mobile system of operation.
Right.
How are you going to navigate around those two issues?
All right, so firstly, with the competition side of things, there are other people that are doing what I'm doing. However, with the bigger plans that we do have, we're trying to move away from the direct competition because, even in the mobile space, I've still seen the market, like you're saying, with the pop-up nail bars, etc. There's not really much of that in South Africa as actively as we would want it to be. And with regards to the services being cut with the economic changes and stuff, the fortunate thing about our services is that when people are scared, as people are scared right now to leave and actually get services done, they have someone to call to come in and do it for them.
So you see it as an
opportunity. Absolutely. I see it as an opportunity because, everyone is scared. The kids are at home for about a few weeks, I think 4 weeks or so.
Yes.
They can't go to any kind of school or any kind of care, and now you have to be home because work is also closed for some people.
Right.
But you've got a wedding coming up on Saturday and your nails are looking hideous. So, I honestly see it as an opportunity with the line of business that we're in. However, with the economical side of things, unfortunately, we might have to look at the amounts that we charge, because like you're saying, people are more concerned about now paying for more.
It's a luxury.
Exactly.
You can't do without it.
Right.
How do you structure your pricing? You're going to have to be very clever in the way you do your pricing.
Yeah.
You've got to be competitive.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to price yourself out of the market.
Right.
Competition's there as well.
Right.
So and taking into account that you have overheads.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't want to lose any staff in this time of COVID-19.
Right. So with our prices currently, even against our competitors, we're still very relatively cheap. So that's why I'm saying we might have to reduce the prices. In often cases, we don't need to. But I mean, should the situation become very dire, we might have to look at that. And obviously, with the relationship that we have with our suppliers, which is a very great one, I'm sure we'd be able to work out the perfect structure. But currently, with our prices, we are really the lowest. Yeah.
So you're seeing COVID-19 as an opportunity. Let's look at your logistic operations. How, it's taken you 2 or 3 years to get where you are today.
Right.
COVID-19 out of the way, put it aside. what's your future plans in terms of growing your business and in so doing creating opportunities for other young people? Because that is the bottom line,
That
is
is
it
the
not?
bottom line, yeah. That is the bottom line. So the one thing that I pride myself in doing in the business is that we offer training at a very cheap rate right now, because we've noticed that even though unemployment is high, but the need for people to still make money while they're looking for something better is there. So what we do is then we train these people on how to start the nail business, and we train them on how to do the nails and how to sustain the business based, of course, on the knowledge that I've kind of, roped in from the years of experience in the industry. And I think more than anything, that would be the bigger aspect of where we're trying to go, because we're trying to get accredited currently so that we can offer that as a professional training certificate.
Meaning, accredited by what council
CETA.
would that be?
The CETA.
Okay.
Yeah, so currently we just offer attendance certificates, but people are able to start their businesses because in the nail industry, or the beauty industry rather, it's not about your qualification, it's about what you practically can do. So that's where we come in. We train you so that you can practically do it, and then hopefully at a later stage give you the qualification. Over and above that, like I said, we're going into the pop-up idea that you've mentioned, and we are trying to target more corporate companies as well, and we are adding more services into the business. It started out as just the nail bar, but now it's actually a whole spa, a holistic spa, like I said, where we offer all the beauty services. But right now we're doing it at a smaller scale. And the future plan is obviously for us to go on a bigger scale.
Okay, let's go for an ad break. When we come back, we're going to look at risks or challenges, how you overcome them, what your long-term plans are, and then I want to focus a little bit on the time that you were hospitalized.
Okay.
Hopefully that's going to give people lots of motivation.
I hope so.
We're talking to the charming Glodina Ndlovu. She was in a very adverse situation, but she wasn't going to let it keep her down. She went out and she is now building an amazing business. So stay with us. Claudine Ndlovu from Sugar Plum Spa. It's a mobile operation. In studio talking to us about how she started her business. But I think tied into all of this is emotional intelligence. If you don't know how to deal with people, if you don't hook into the right people at the right time with the right words, you're going to be left out in the cold. Where and how did you happen upon emotional intelligence? I presume you went on a course and you realized the merit in embracing emotional intelligence in your own life. What's the difference between IQ and EQ?
So IQ would basically be how smart you are. What can you tell me? What do you know? The knowledge that you have. But emotional intelligence then talks to, there's a lot of things that actually influence the emotional intelligence, or lack thereof, if I can put it that way.
Is it part of your personality, or let's assume you have a very abrasive personality.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you learn emotional intelligence?
Definitely. I find that you can, and I've actually had to learn it myself. Growing up, I used to be extremely shy. I would not even have guessed that I'd be in business, especially one that is as interactive as I am. I grew up with insecurities, which I still do have, but the more that you learn about yourself, because it all starts with the self. Once you know yourself, you know what it is that you like, you know what it is that you don't like, which then will also influence the decisions that you make around whether to start a business, what kind of business, whether to go into corporate, what kind of corporate job, what to study, etc. But you need that emotional intelligence to be able to guide your mind against what the heart says, if that makes sense. So with me, I
is it about respect and how you interact with people? Is that part of it?
Yes, that is part of it. That's how you interact with people would obviously say how you value that person.
Ah.
Yeah. So the interaction part of things, how you handle conflict, how you handle staff, how you handle people, how you handle
Life
disasters, life
situations.
situations, the coronavirus, for instance. Are you listening to the instructions? Are you taking it to heart? That speaks a lot about the emotional intelligence part of things. So I did public speaking training at MHI, and over and above me already knowing that I'm good at public speaking because I used to debate at school, but over and above me knowing that I like psychology. And I actually look forward to studying psychology in the future, because I feel like if people can understand their thought processes, a lot of choices and therefore a lot of things that are affecting us right now might actually be better.
Because your thoughts then obviously trigger your reaction,
exactly.
or response to a particular situation.
Exactly, or even to people. There's a lot of
Absolutely.
violence right now because people do not understand how to maintain their reactions or how to handle their reactions, and they want to blame it on the next person. Whereas emotional intelligence tells you that, listen, even though you might be right, this person does not come from the same upbringing as you. They don't have the same beliefs or values or experiences as you. Therefore, you need to take a step back and try and listen to what the problem is here. And I find that is a positive thing that I have had to use in my business, because you do find clients that you just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to deal with this person. But you have to take a step back. Ask yourself why. Why are you in business? What is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you interviewing me right now? You know what I mean? So with that emotional intelligence, it's able to steer and guide you into the greater person that you're supposed to be.
It's not only about business, it's about all of your interactions.
Correct.
It's about your romantic interactions,
Correct.
your familiar interactions, etc.,
Yeah.
etc. How does this guide you then? Because you might have sibling rivalry that plays out a lot of times in lots of families.
Yeah.
With emotional intelligence, are you able to diffuse very heated discussions or heated arguments? Do you step back from it, walk away from it? Does that not enrage the
next
rest of the
person.
party? Or what are the tips or the tricks you can give us for us to help diffuse very volatile situations?
Right. Let me make a very personal example to you. I've got an older sister that, according to me, was socially not doing the right things. Up until I recently actually decided to cultivate our relationship and try and understand why it is that she lives her life the way that she does. And let me just tell you, our relationship today is the best. She even manages one of my nail bars, and I never thought that she could. But I had to take a step back over and above me acknowledging, because I know that Dr. Phil once said that you cannot change what you don't acknowledge. And everything else around my life, except that relationship, I always paid attention to with the emotional intelligence part of things. But with her, it was always from a point of hurt and anger and, hatred at that time. And I had to then understand why it is that the things that she does socially affect me. So meaning I have to come back to myself. I have to come back to the emotional intelligence in me to say, what is it about me that this person is rubbing off the wrong way? And once I learned that, I was able to then go back and relook the situation a bit differently. So when you are caught in a situation like that, you need to understand, number one, yourself, and why that thing that is actually in conflict with you is a negative or is rubbing you off the wrong way. And then deal with that first, because in most cases, how we react to other people is actually telling of what's inside of us. It's not necessarily this person's action. It's the reaction that we are giving from experience or history or whatever it is that is in us. So I think there's many ways of dealing with conflict. And, just to answer your question, some people prefer to walk away. I am a communicator. I prefer to sit people down and say, but I don't understand. What did I do? Or how can I make it better? Or I'm sorry I did this. How can I make it better the next time? And some people
refuse to engage with you.
Yeah.
They refuse to engage. They just want their point of view heard.
Right.
And they want their way.
Yeah.
I'm talking toxic people.
Right. Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with that?
So with toxic people, it also depends on the setting. Let's just say you're walking outside and a toxic person decides to attack you verbally. I mean, I would just walk away from that. Personally, I would walk away from that. But if it's a situation where you are able to get enough time to understand what is wrong with this person for them to be attacking me in that way, then go that route. So it depends on the situation that you are in at that point.
And the personality you interacting with.
Exactly. So with my personality as well, I think it has helped with dealing with conflict, because over and above me being a communicator, I'm also the fixer. That's what they call me. So I forgive more. I forgive very quickly. I don't really hold grudges, and I communicate because I like to build the next person. And I remember there's I forgot the name, but there's a lady that's also a motivational speaker that says, I need to first love me to a point where it overflows. I think it's Lisa Nichols. And you need to overflow to a point where everyone else must feed off of that water. But if that water is not overflowing, then it means you are empty. And if you are empty, then the rest of the world is not the problem. The problem is you. You need to find out what it is that needs to fill that void, and then take it from there. And once you have filled that void, once you know yourself, you begin to love yourself and your flaws. And once you love yourself, how you interact with the public is going to change, because now you are considering the value that you need to put out based on the love that you have inside you.
If you have a toxic person in your workplace, for example, or even in your home for that matter, and you know that this person is going to benefit and truly grow by leaps and bounds if she fixes herself, if she changes her mindset, if she realizes that she's really got all of this power within her, all this potential. She just needs to let go of all the toxicity within herself.
Right.
Would suggesting a course on emotional intelligence work for her? Or are we talking perhaps more intense therapy? Would this be a start? And very especially with toxic people, they don't take kindly to well-meaning suggestions.
Yeah. So first of all, you also have to go back to understand why you think that person is not living right in the first place.
Let's assume you've had lots of run-ins with the person.
Okay.
And despite all your best intentions, it just ain't working out.
Yeah. Okay. But you also have to understand that whatever happens in your life is what's meant to happen. It's just that we have two choices in life. Either you go left or you go right. But ultimately, when you go left, that was supposed to happen. Should you go left? It was already preempt. Should you go right? It's supposed to happen. You know what I mean? So I right now, after the relationship with my sister, I understand things a bit better with toxic people, like you're explaining, because I don't think it was right for me. Let me put it that way. I don't think it was right for me to have to judge that situation without understanding why, what caused it. So emotional intelligence won't do much for a person that hasn't healed from previous experiences. And now, because they haven't healed, they harshly bring it onto society. And we, the people that think are healed, are going to take it, as a toxic trait.
And so we shouldn't be writing them off. We should try and do whatever we possibly can in our power to try and support them.
Exactly.
And guide them in the right direction.
Yeah, because remember, your life is also not perfect to someone else's eyes.
Absolutely.
So someone else is actually looking at you wanting to fix
and
you.
And judging me.
Exactly. So it's actually the same thing. So
Right.
if you knew that I was judging you and I thought, oh my gosh, she could do much better, then you would want to, depending also on your emotional intelligence and the level and your personality, you might accept it and say, but Claudine, okay, guide me. Show me what it is that I need to do. But people that are toxic might be still angry about something they haven't dealt with. So, going to therapy would be the first step. You can't gain emotional intelligence without healing. That's like putting oil on water and hoping.
Absolutely. And that's all we have time for today. But it was lovely talking with you and much luck and future success with your mobile spa.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
That was Claudine Ndlovu talking about her mobile spa. It was born out of a situation of dire need. She was hospitalized for quite a while with Bell's palsy, which is part paralysis of the face, but she didn't let it keep her down. She went out and she is now truly a great success. And one of the things that helped her on her journey was being emotionally intelligent. So something to think about. And our final interview this morning is with Tsatseng the lawyer. That is how he is popularly known in his circles. He was a petrol attendant, and he didn't let that hold him back. He went on, he had big dreams, and it looks like his dreams are being realized. He also runs his own NPO, and he is busy studying for his boards. Let's hear this young man's story and how he can motivate all the other young people around him and in our country as a whole. Morning, welcome to the program.
Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. My pleasure to have you here. And it's quite a story, is it not?
Yes.
When you were growing up, your parents were unemployed. What was it going on around you, apart from the fact that possibly days on end there may not have been enough food in the house to go around, and other issues impacting on you as a family socially? What was the one biggest motivating factor that drove you to take really serious interest in schoolwork and in studies?
Well, I must say that when I realized that there actually isn't anything for me after school, should I complete my studies, I'm not going to be inheriting any kind of a business or anything substantial from my parents. Then I realized that, you know what, let me take the schooling up seriously and use this opportunity to change my life for the better, because really there was really nothing for me after
How
that.
bad was your life? Having nothing, knowing that you're not going to get anything out of your parents because they were unemployed. And then also, did you have a role model that made you truly follow your dreams?
Well, with regards to the situation at home, it was, well, my parents did their best
I'm sure.
to a certain extent, but that best was not something that I wanted for the rest of my life. Then I decided, you know what, I'll get myself something better, but still being grateful for what they could have, they had done for me. And then with regards to my role models, I have a few, but let me say the most outstanding one was DJ Spoo. You know, I could relate to him on so many levels. He was basically someone who actually, the way he lived, was able to inspire me out of the gutter with what he does and how he lives and how he also made it out of the gutter.
Challenges in your life? What were the really bad challenges that you had to overcome? And how difficult was it for you to keep on following your dreams with all of these challenges plaguing you every now and again?
Yes. I think the biggest challenge was for me to get into a place where I believe in myself, because what I was starting was something new at home, within the community. And then I had to put myself in a position where, as I said, you know what, you're going to do this regardless of whatever circumstances you're faced with. And then, yeah, I moved on from that, and then it kept me going until I got to a point where I'm at right now.
During your time that you were schooling and studying, you went out and you found a job as a petrol attendant. You had to work odd hours, all hours, weekends, etc. How did you find the time? How did you motivate yourself enough to continue studying and taking an interest and not falling by the wayside? Because it is so easy to do. You become disillusioned. There are probably days when you didn't take money home, where you didn't have money yourself for lunch or supper, whatever the case might be. What was that one driving factor in your life?
Well, I looked at everything as a whole and realized that, you know what, there's a reason why I'm doing certain things I'm doing. Me going to school, I realized that, you know what, I'm here for something and I'm not going to leave here until I get that. And me going to work as a petrol attendant was something to say to myself that, you know what, it's only for the meantime until you're done with your studies. And then after that, there's even a bigger reward because you've been putting work in. So that's something that's been keeping me going throughout.
And there's absolutely nothing demeaning about having been a petrol attendant. It was an honest day's work. Like on a previous show, we had a security guard who went on and has written a couple of novels. So, you know, these are very inspiring stories for the youth of our country and for people who've fallen by the wayside. It gives people hope knowing if you believe in yourself enough, you can realize all your dreams.
That is true.
Along the way, you must have had lots of failures, you must have had lots of challenges. How did you manage to overcome those?
Well, I just made sure that I, kept, there's this saying that says, keep the end in mind, begin with the end in mind.
Keep that picture
Yes,
burning
that picture,
brightly.
I kept looking into that and then telling myself that, believing in myself and also praying. It really did help a lot because I don't think...
Your belief in God.
Yes, my belief in God. I don't think just me alone was sufficient. I played a part in it, but the main role was also played by God himself.
Young people, when they start their life in tertiary or even if they're doing private studies, etc., can get very easily waylaid. What was that one driving force that kept you going? I'm thinking about the role of your parents, perhaps, maybe siblings, or somebody somewhere, consciously or even unconsciously at the time, made you keep going.
Well, I think remembering where I come from and why I was there, I think that kept me grounded most of the time because, yes, you do stray along the way, but when you keep reminding yourself as to where you come from and why you're here and where you want to go, that's another factor that actually kept me grounded and motivated.
Was there ever a time when you wanted to throw in the towel, when you just felt, I can't any longer, it's just way too difficult, it just takes too much energy out of me to do this thing?
Yes, there were periods of time when I felt like, let me just stop here. It's, I've done enough. But then I didn't, Those times do visit, but I made sure they don't stay at all.
How long has it been for you to have earned your LLB? And I know that you're now studying really, really hard, working really hard for your bar, to do your boards rather.
Yes.
How long did it take you? Were there gaps in between your studies?
Well, I was studying LLB law at UJ. It's a 4-year degree. However, in my final year, I had actually too much going on because I was studying, I was working, I was involved in the leadership of the house committee that I was staying at, the RES. So I actually had a lot going on. So then in my final year, I failed 2 modules. And then that extended by a semester. And then the following year, I completed, and then, yeah.
What do you say to young people that find themselves in a situation like that? Because it's really very easy to just throw it all in and walk away from it, not taking into consideration all of the hard work you've put into it up to that point in time. And failure is okay because it is a stepping stone to bigger, better and greater things.
Yes. Well, what I would say is in life there are potholes. When you're driving your car, which is your life, you will hit a pothole. Whether you decide that it's the end of the journey because of a flat tire, whether you say, I have a spare, I'll take it out and I'll keep going. Just know that in life there are certain potholes that you will hit, but regardless of those potholes that you've hit and those damaged tires, you have to keep going. That should not discourage you. That should actually tell you about the journey ahead, that if you quit now, you're going to lose out on what's ahead.
Okay, we're going for an ad break. When we come back, we'll talk some more about your life's journey. You also have your own NPO. Let's hear about that and how you are making a difference. Okay. The lawyer, he calls himself Tsatseng, the lawyer. That's how he's known in his circles, and he's here to share his story with us and also talk about something that's very close to his heart, and that is his non-profit. We'll hear more about that right after the ad break. Tatseng, the lawyer, is sharing his story with us. And if you're wondering why we're talking to him this morning, well, simply because we believe you need to be motivated, you need to be inspired, and hearing his story will make you rethink the status quo in your life. Not only has he worked as a petrol attendant to see him through school, through university, he has gone on and started his own NPO. So as you can see, he is paying it forward way, way in advance. Tell us about your NPO.
Well, the NPO, the name is Scala First, which means school first. The word Scala is a township lingo, so we use that because it's catchy, you know, with the youth. And where we come from, the learners will be able to recognize it easier, you see. With regard to Scala First, why it was formed, it was a way of me giving back. When we started, I did not have anything to give back except for hope and my story. So went back to the schools.
How long ago was this?
It was in 2016.
And it's still ongoing?
Yes, still ongoing.
So what is it exactly that you're doing with youth?
Well, we go to the schools and motivate them. We have sessions where we sit down on a one-on-one level with the matrics and the grade 11s. We talk about the challenges that they face being learners, and we share tips, study tips, and advise them on how to approach life, because we understand we can relate to them better. And then we also have projects where we give jerseys to the indigent, and to those who are going to university, we actually give them a starter pack which has a kettle, a set of pots, and an iron. Because throughout my journey in university, I witnessed some learners depending on the mercy of other students for such necessities. Then I realized that, you know what, if I'm in a position to help someone else, this is where I'm going to start. And it's not only, as Scala First, we decided that, you know what, it's not only right that we only preach education, but we also aim to try and facilitate it, you know. As we're going back to learn and say, okay, you know what, guys, take schooling seriously, but we also say, you know what, we'll help you throughout your journey.
How do you fundraise? And how many students do you actually help with starter packs at university?
Well, with regards to fundraising, the organization is self-funded by the members.
Wow.
As the organization is compiled of different professionals from different fields.
All in the township, all the professionals
Yes.
you're talking about come out of the townships.
Yes. And then with regards to the top 10, the starter packs, we did this last year. We took top performing matriculants from each school, one from each school. And we said, you know what, we need to see whether you have intentions of going to university, and with regards to your background. Are you indigent, or are you someone who's coming from a well-off family? And then we took the ones who were indigent.
The needy ones,
Yes.
and then you gave them the starter packs.
Yes.
Going forward, how are you going to grow this NPO? What more can you do to support young people in their travel, or their journey from school into university? And oftentimes we are told that the matriculants are not prepared well enough to enter the world of tertiary.
Yes. Well, with regards to the direction of where the organization is going, one day I hope it will give bursaries to the learners. I don't want to, in future, hear of a learner saying they can't go to school because there is no funding for them to go to school. So that's where Scala First is going. We're going to make sure that, tertiary and secondary, all the learners are covered with regards to those basic necessities to facilitate their academic journey. Yes.
When you qualified, you went on to legal aid and you served as a candidate attorney. How long were you there, and what was the biggest learning for you there as a candidate attorney?
Well, I was at legal aid for 2 years as a candidate attorney.
And legal aid as an institution play a huge role, a very important role, again, in the lives of indigent people, people who need legal aid in whatever issue that they're dealing with in their life. So let's look at that whole role.
Well, I must say that with regards to the experience at Legal Aid, it is a very hands-on experience. You know, you get equipped with efficient skills that will actually benefit you going forward within your career. And the reason why I think I chose I wanted to work for Legal Aid because it represented the values that I represent. So I said, you know what, it's best when you work for an organization that you will feel at home based on the values that it shares. So I must say that,
So the values are aligned, and you spent 2 years with them.
yes.
Where are you now?
Right now, I'm still completing my board exams. I just obtained my compliance diploma. And yeah, I'm basically also doing the motivational talks under Scale Fest, you know, doing the works for the community development. And then hopefully something will come up. I know something will come up, yes.
When you say development, what sort of development are you talking about?
Well, empowering the youth, you know, with knowledge, with skills, with what I've put myself in a position where, as I said, you know what, I'm available. Should you need someone to help you with applying, advice, studying and everything, I'm available.
Even if it's on one-on-one.
Yes.
Why did you choose this route as your profession? You could have, you were very interested in school, you were out to make a success of your life. Why attorney? Why the legal field? You could have chosen any other field.
Well, actually, it was a happy accident. I think in grade 11, when I started taking my schooling seriously, and then I fell in love with history, and in the subject of history, certain individuals like Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, they fought for literacy, and those figures stood out for me. So when I followed and I did my research on the likes of Fidel Castro, and I realized, okay, no, this person, he studied this. And when you see, not to flatter myself, but when you see the greats in history, all of them had that legal aspect in their lives. So then I realized that, you know what, I'm on the right track if I choose this. And then, yeah, the rest is history.
Almost time to wrap up. One final tough question for you is, we're still not quite out of the rot with state capture yet. As a young legal mind, what do you believe needs to be done for us to perhaps recoup all of the lost money that's gone out of the country by all the scoundrels? And what are you going to do with your other legal buddies to make sure that these type of things start happening?
Well, it's a matter of holding those who are responsible accountable, and also going back to ethics. We have to make sure that, you know, we encourage ethical behavior throughout. Therefore, such things will be avoided.
As let's assume you get a position with the NPA, are you going to truly hold such people to account and make sure that they serve the necessary time and recoup the monies and send out a very strong message to the rest of the country?
Well, I must say that should I be in such a position, what I'll ensure is that justice is seen to be done. Not only is it just being mentioned there and there, but it's seen to be done so that the public can have confidence in its government.
And in the justice system, of course.
In the justice system, too.
And that's where we leave it. Thank you indeed for sharing your thoughts with us. Good luck for the future. Good luck with your board exams. I have no doubt that you're going to ace it.
Thank you.
And all the very best. And we look out for you. There you have it. We've come to the end of the show. I mean, we've talked COVID-19, we've talked emotional intelligence, and we're wrapping up with a legal eagle. Hope you've enjoyed the interviews. Take care on the roads as always. Till the next time, it is Khodafes from me, Julie Alli.